The Prairie Star travel mark glowed like a promise against the North Dakota night, 22 degrees below zero. The kind of cold that turns breath into ice crystals before they hit the ground. The kind of cold that kills. Behind the building where the dumpsters blocked the wind and the security lights didn't quite reach, an 8-year-old girl was turning into a statue. Her name was Willa June Ashford. She had brown hair matted with frost, brown eyes that had seen too much. And in her left hand wrapped so tight her knuckles had gone white, she clutched a brass compass that hadn't pointed north in 16 months. The compass was all she had left of her mother. That and the stolen phone in her left pocket. The one with 23 recordings that would either save her life or mean nothing at all. Willa's lips had gone from pink to purple to a bruised shade of blue. Her whole body shook in violent bursts, then went still, then shook again. Her sweatpants were soaked through from the knees down where she'd crawled through the snowbank. One sneaker was missing its lace. The other had a split sole that opened and closed like a mouth every time she tried to move her foot. She'd been behind this dumpster for 3 hours. Before that, she'd been running for 5. Before that, she'd been planning her escape for 127 days. The garage at 611 County Road 12 smelled like motor oil and mildew and the particular kind of damp that settles into concrete when winter refuses to let go. Willa sat on the thin mattress in the corner of the laundry room, her back against the wall, her knees pulled up to her chest. The space heater in the corner was unplugged. It had been unplugged for 6 days. Uncle Victor said heat cost money. Uncle Victor said she cost enough already. The door to the laundry room had a deadbolt on the outside. Through the wall, Willa could hear the television in the main house. Some game show where people screamed when they won prizes. Uncle Victor liked game shows. He said they reminded him that most people were stupid and desperate and easy to manipulate. He said it like it was funny. Willa pulled the stolen phone from where she'd hidden it inside the ripped lining of her winter coat. The screen was cracked. The battery was at 14%. But it still worked. It had to work. She'd stolen it 4 months ago from Uncle Victor's junk drawer, an old flip phone he'd forgotten about. No service plan, but it could still record audio. She'd tested it 17 times before she trusted it. Since then, she'd recorded 23 separate conversations. Uncle Victor talking to himself when he drank whiskey at night. Uncle Victor on the phone with his lawyer. Uncle Victor standing outside the locked door explaining in his calm, reasonable voice exactly what would happen to her after January 8th, when the trust fund from her parents' death would clear into his name, when he wouldn't have to feed a kid anymore, when the problem would be solved. He'd said it just like that. The problem would be solved. Willa wasn't stupid. She knew what solved meant. She'd found Tyler Markham's file 3 months ago, hidden in Uncle Victor's desk. Tyler had been 11, a foster kid. She died in February 2021. The death certificate said accidental exposure, hypothermia after a winter storm. But there was an insurance policy in the file, $60,000. Beneficiary Victor Thorne Kane. And there was a diary, just 5 pages. Tyler's handwriting got shakier on every page. The last entry said, "It's so cold. I'm sorry I'm bad." Tyler wasn't bad. Willa knew that now. Tyler had just been in the way of $60,000, just like Willa was in the way of $314,000. Willa pressed the phone to her chest and listened to the house. Uncle Victor's footsteps moved from the living room to the kitchen. The refrigerator opened, the particular clink of a whiskey bottle against glass. This was her window. When he drank, he got sloppy. When he got sloppy, he got loud. When he got loud, he forgot to check the locks as carefully. Willa had been working on the window screws for 9 weeks. She'd stolen a spoon from the kitchen trash and used the handle to slowly turn the screws counterclockwise. A quarter turn each night, sometimes less if she heard him coming. Tonight, the last screw had finally come loose. She slid the window open. Cold air rushed in like a fist to the chest. She could see her breath in 3-second clouds. The ground was 8 feet down, snow piled against the foundation. Willa looked at the compass one more time. The needle was stuck trembling uselessly between west and south, but on the back, carved in her mother's handwriting, were 2 initials, J plus R, Jenna plus Reese. Her mom had told her once, "If you're ever lost, go north. Toward the lights, people gather around lights." Willa didn't know where north was anymore. but she knew where the lights were. The Prairie Star Travel Mart was 2 miles away. Truckers stopped there all night. Someone at a truck stop had to care about a freezing kid. Someone had to. She tucked the phone deep into her left pocket. She tucked the compass into her right. Then she pulled herself through the window and dropped into the snow. The cold hit her like a truck. She didn't have a coat. Uncle Victor had taken it 4 days ago. Said she didn't need it if she wasn't going anywhere. She had a hoodie, thin cotton, the kind that stopped being warm after the first 10 minutes outside. Willa started running. She made it to the gas station first. A BP off Highway 2. Bright lights, cars at the pumps, a woman in a silver SUV filling her tank. Willa's teeth were already chattering. Her fingers had started to go numb. She walked up to the driver's side window and knocked, and the woman looked at her. Mid-40s, puffy jacket, expression that shifted from surprise to concern to something that looked like fear. Willa held up her arm. There were bruises there, finger-shaped, 4 days old fading to yellow-green. The woman's eyes went to the bruises, then to Willa's face, then to the empty parking lot like she was checking if anyone was watching. She rolled the window down 2 inches. "Where's your coat?" Willa opened her mouth. The words stuck. She tried again. "I need help, my uncle." The woman's expression changed, not to kindness, to something harder. "Where are your parents? They're dead." The woman's hand moved to the window button. The glass slid up. 2 inches became 1. Then nothing. The SUV pulled away. Willa stood there, breath fogging the space where the car had been. Okay, someone else. The truck stop was another half-mile. Her legs felt like wood by the time she got there. A semi was parked in the corner of the lot, engine idling. The driver was inside the cab, eating something from a paper bag. Willa climbed up on the running board and knocked on the door. The driver was older, 60s maybe. He looked at her through the window. His face did something complicated. Pity and worry, and then something that looked like a decision being made. He cracked the door. "What do you need, kid? A phone, please. I need to call someone. Where's your folks dead? I'm staying with my uncle." The man raised a hand. "Stop. Look, I can't. I got a record. Parole. If someone sees me with a kid and there's any kind of trouble, I go back inside." You understand? Willa didn't understand, not really. But she understood the door closing. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I can't get involved." The semi pulled out of the lot 60 seconds later. Willa watched the taillights disappear. 2 down. She tried them all next. It was closed, but there was a security guard in the parking lot. Black uniform, flashlight. He saw her coming from 50 feet away. "Hey, kid, what are you doing out here? I need help." The guard looked her up and down. No coat, wet sneakers, shaking so hard her voice came out in pieces. "Where do you live?" "County Road 12, that's 4 miles. "You walk here," Willa nodded. The guard sighed. He pulled out a radio. For a second, Willa thought he was calling for help. Then she heard what he said. "Yeah, I got a kid out here, loitering. Looks like a runaway. You want me to call the cops or just tell her to go home?" There was static, a voice on the other end. "Tell her to leave the property if she doesn't call it in." The guard looked at Willa. Not unkind, but not kind either. "You heard that? Go home, kid, or I call the cops and they take you home." "Your choice." Willa's throat closed up. She turned and walked away before he could see her cry. 3 down. The last stop was a church. Not open, but there was a woman outside putting up a sign for Sunday services. She wore a sweater that said "Blessed and Grateful" in cursive letters. Willa walked up. She didn't have any words left. She just stood there, shaking. The woman saw her and her face melted into something soft. "Oh, honey, are you lost?" Willa shook her head. "Are you in trouble?" Willa nodded. The woman crouched down. She smelled like lavender and something sweet. She touched Willa's shoulder. "What's your name?" "Willa June Ashford." "Where are your parents?" "Willa June dead." The woman's face did something painful. She glanced back at the church, then at Willa. "Sweetheart, I want to help you, I do. But there are rules. I can't just take you somewhere without going through the proper channels. Do you understand I need to call family services? They have to do an investigation. There's a process." Willa's hope crumbled. "That takes too long." The woman stood up. She pulled out her phone, but not to call anyone. To check the time. "I'll pray for you, honey, but you need to go through the right steps. That's how things work." Then she went inside. Willa stood outside the church for 5 minutes, waiting, hoping the woman would come back out. She didn't. 4 down. Willa started walking. She made it to the Prairie Star Travel Mart just after 3 in the morning. Her whole body was shaking now. Not the kind of shaking you can control, the kind that comes from deep inside and won't stop no matter how hard you clench your teeth. Her feet were numb. She couldn't feel her fingers anymore. The hoodie was frozen stiff where her breath had condensed on the fabric. The compass was still in her right pocket. The phone was still in her left. She looked at the building. Lights blazing, warm air leaking out every time the automatic doors opened. She could see people inside. A cashier, a customer buying coffee. She wanted to go inside. She wanted to walk through those doors and collapse on the floor and let someone else make the decisions. But she tried that 4 times. People don't see what they don't want to see. So she went around back instead, where the dumpsters were, where it was darker, where she could sit down for just a minute and figure out what to do next. Just a minute. She wedged herself between the dumpster and the wall. The metal blocked some of the wind. Not much, but some. She pulled the phone out. Battery at 9%. She tried to think, tried to make a plan, but the cold was eating her thoughts, making everything slow and heavy. Her eyes closed. Hank Morrison had been riding for 32 years. He'd seen a lot of roads, a lot of towns, a lot of things people did to each other in the dark. He'd learned to notice the small things, the things that didn't fit, like the tapping sound. He'd pulled into the Prairie Star just after 3:30, planning to grab coffee and fuel before the last push to Fargo. The bike was running clean. The night was cold but clear. Everything normal. Then he heard it. Tap, tap, pause, tap, faint, rhythmic, coming from behind the building. Atlas killed the engine, listened. There it was again. Tap, tap, tap. He swung off the bike and followed the sound. His breath puffed white in the air. The security light back here was busted, just a dark socket where the bulb should have been. He pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam swept across trash bags, a broken pallet, then a small body wedged against the dumpster's base. Atlas's stomach dropped. He moved fast, dropped to one knee. The kid was tiny, a girl, 8 maybe. Her lips were blue. Her skin had that waxy look, the kind of pale that comes right before the body gives up. She was tapping her knuckles against the dumpster. Weak, barely moving, trying to stay awake. Atlas touched 2 fingers to her neck. Pulse was there, slow, thready. Her eyes cracked open, brown, unfocused. Hey kid, look at me. The girl's lips moved. No sound came out at first, then barely a whisper. Phone left pocket. Evidence. Atlas blinked. Evidence, don't erase it. The girl's hand moved trembling toward her left pocket. Atlas saw the edge of a phone sticking out. How old are you? The girl's eyes struggled to focus. 8. Her hand moved again, this time pointing at her pocket. Take the phone first, then me. Atlas stared at her. This kid was hypothermic, dying, and she was giving him instructions. He pulled the phone out carefully. Cracked flip phone. Screen showed 9% battery. Got it. Now I'm getting you. He shrugged off his riding jacket. Heavy leather, still warm from his body. He wrapped it around her and slid one arm under her shoulders, the other under her knees. She weighed almost nothing. He stood up, and the girl's whole body convulsed with shivers. Her teeth chattered so hard he could hear them clicking. Stay with me. 60 seconds. That's all I need. He carried her around the front of the building. The automatic doors slid open with a cheerful ding, ding, ding. Warm air rolled over them. The cashier looked up. Young guy. Beanie pulled low. He saw the girl in Atlas's arms and his face went white. Call 911. Now, I can't. The cashier's eyes flicked to the Hell's Angels patch on Atlas's jacket. Fear. Atlas kept his voice level. Certain, you can, and you will. Tell them it's a child with hypothermia. Critical. The cashier grabbed the phone. Atlas carried the girl to the bench by the space heater. He grabbed a silver emergency blanket from the shelf without asking and wrapped her in it. The girl's hands were tucked under her arms, trying to hold in heat that wasn't there. Her eyes found his face. Record what you see. What? The girl swallowed. Her voice was barely there. He'll say, I'm lying. Record the injuries. Atlas pulled out his phone, started taking photos, her blue lips, her frostbitten fingers, the bruises on her arms, the burn scars on her wrist. Circular, deliberate. Who did this to you? The girl's eyes drifted toward the front windows, like she expected headlights any second. My uncle. Victor. Atlas felt something cold settle in his chest, not from the temperature. Where do you live, County Road 12? That's 4 miles. The girl nodded, her shivering spiked. The emergency blanket crinkled. I tried to ask for help. 4 people. They didn't. Her voice broke. Atlas leaned closer. They didn't what? They didn't see me. The ambulance arrived 6 minutes later. The EMTs moved fast. Professional. A woman with gray hair took the girl's temperature with a temporal scanner, and her expression went hard. 89.8. We're at the edge. Any lower, and we're looking at cardiac arrest. They lifted the girl onto the stretcher. She grabbed Atlas's hand. Her fingers were ice. Don't leave. I'm not going anywhere, kid. Her eyes closed. The EMTs loaded her into the ambulance and Atlas climbed in behind them. The cashier stood in the doorway watching, his face pale, guilty. Atlas caught his eye. Did you see her earlier? The cashier's throat bobbed. She was by the pumps, around midnight, but I thought she was with someone. Atlas didn't say anything. He just looked at the kid and then back at the cashier. The message was clear. You were wrong. The ambulance doors closed. The emergency room smelled like antiseptic and warm plastic. Machines beeped in steady rhythms. Voices stayed calm and low. They cut the girl's clothes away. Atlas turned his head, but he still saw enough. Ribs too visible. More bruises. Scars that had healed over and left marks. Dr. Bryn Whitmore listened to the EMT report, looked at the girl's weight, her injuries, her skin color. Her mouth flattened into a line. This isn't one bad night. This is chronic. She started barking orders. Warm IV fluids, heated blankets, oxygen, cardiac monitor. Atlas stood in the corner out of the way. He still had the girl's phone in his pocket. Dr. Whitmore glanced at him. You found her? Atlas nodded. You got a name, Hank Morrison. People call me Atlas. The doctor's eyes went to his jacket. The Hells Angels patch. You staying? Unless you throw me out. Dr. Whitmore almost smiled. Then she turned back to the girl. Sweetheart, can you hear me? The girl's eyes opened. Clearer now. The warm fluids were working. Yes. What's your name? Willa June Ashford. Do you know where you are, hospital? That's right. You're safe now. Willa's eyes moved to Atlas. Checking. He nodded. The doctor pulled up a stool. Willa, I need to ask you some questions. Is that okay? Willa nodded. Who hurt you? My uncle. Victor Kane. Where are your parents dead? Car accident. 16 months ago. Dr. Whitmore typed notes into her tablet. And you've been living with your uncle since then? Willa nodded. Has he hurt you before tonight? Willa's jaw tightened. She looked at Atlas again. Show her the phone. Atlas pulled it out, handed it to the doctor. Willa's voice was stronger now. I recorded him 23 times. He talks when he drinks. He tells the truth when he thinks no one's listening. Dr. Whitmore stared at the phone, then at Willa. You recorded your abuser, Willa nodded. I needed proof. People don't believe kids without proof. The doctor's expression shifted, something between heartbreak and fury. How old are you? Willa 8. The doctor set the phone down carefully, like it was made of glass. We're going to keep you here. We're going to make sure you're safe. And we're going to listen to every single one of those recordings. Okay. Willa's eyes filled. She blinked hard. Okay. A nurse came in with more heated blankets. Another checked Willa's vitals. Temperature rising. 91.2. Better. Still dangerous, but better. Dr. Whitmore stepped into the hallway and made a call. Atlas couldn't hear all of it, but he caught enough. Protective hold, yes. Suspected abuse and neglect. No, do not contact the guardian. When she came back, she looked at Atlas. You got her here with minutes to spare. Another 15, and we'd be talking about organ damage. You understand? Atlas nodded. His throat felt tight. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. How do I keep her safe? Whitmore's expression hardened. Right now, you keep anyone from walking out with her without a court order. Atlas pulled out his own phone. He had a call to make. The line rang twice. Deacon's voice came through rough with sleep. This better be good. It's Atlas. I need every brother within 200 miles at St. Bridget Medical Center. Now, silence. Then, what happened, 8-year-old girl? Found her freezing behind a dumpster. She's got recordings of her abuser. She's terrified the system's going to send her back to him. Another pause. Who's the abuser? Her guardian. Uncle. Legal custody. Deacon swore softly. What do you need a wall? Witnesses. Enough bodies that no one can take her without going through all of us. You got it. We're coming. Atlas ended the call and then looked at Willa through the window. She was asleep now, tiny under the pile of blankets. A nurse adjusted her IV. He'd made a promise, not out loud, but the kind that counts anyway. This kid wasn't going back. When Willa woke up again, it was dawn. Gray light leaked through the blinds. Her body still ached with cold, but the shivering had stopped. There was a man sitting beside her bed. Not Atlas. Someone older, softer looking. He had kind eyes. Hey there, Willa. My name's Marcus. People call me Chalk. Willa studied him. Where's Atlas getting coffee? He'll be right back. I'm just here to keep you company. Is that okay? Willa nodded slowly. Chalk didn't push. He just sat. Quiet. After a while, he pointed at the brass compass on the side table. That yours? Willa's hand moved to it instinctively. My mom's. She gave it to you. Willa nodded. Before she died, she said, if I'm ever lost, go north, toward the lights. Chalk looked at the compass. The needle trembled uselessly. Does it work? It's stuck. Has been for a while. But you kept it. Willa's fingers closed around it. It's all I have left of her. Chalk nodded. That makes it the most important thing in the world. Willa looked at him. Something in his voice made her feel like he understood. She took a breath. Then she started talking. Willa told Chalk everything, not all at once, in pieces. The way trauma comes out when you're too tired to hold it back anymore. The first month wasn't so bad. Uncle Victor smiled a lot, told everyone he was honored to raise his niece. At home, he counted my bites at dinner. Said I ate too much. Chalk typed notes on a tablet. Slow, careful. Month 2, he made me sleep in the garage, in the laundry room. He said I was too expensive for a bedroom. What did he mean by expensive? Willa's voice went flat. He said I cost him $48 a day. Food, water, heat. He said I needed to earn it or starve. Chalk's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed gentle. Did you tell anyone I tried? My teacher, Miss Feldman. She asked why I didn't have lunch one day. I said I wasn't hungry. Uncle Victor brought donuts to school the next week. Everyone laughed. She stopped asking. Month 5. He put locks on the fridge, on the pantry. I took a cracker once because I was so hungry. He burned my arm. Chalk's eyes went to the circular scars on her wrist. Willa nodded. He said thieves get marked. Did he take you out of school month 8? He said I was being homeschooled. He made papers. People signed them. Who signed them? Willa shrugged. School people, the principal, someone from the county, and no one checked on you after that? Willa shook her head. I was invisible. Chalk set the tablet down. You're not invisible anymore, Willa. Willa's eyes welled up. She blinked hard. I know what he's gonna do. What do you mean? She reached for the phone on the side table. Atlas had plugged it into a charger. 7% battery now. Listen to recording number 12. Chalk pressed play. Victor's voice filled the small room. Drunk, rambling, but clear. January 8th. Trust clears. 314,000. Clean transfer. No more kid expense. No more problem. Tyler worked out fine. This one will, too. The recording stopped. Chalk's face had gone pale. Who's Tyler? Willa's voice was small. The girl before me. The nurse came in at 4:46 in the morning with a nervous expression. Someone's here asking about Willa. Atlas stood up. Who says he's her uncle? Victor Kane. Atlas looked at Dr. Whitmore. She was already moving. He doesn't take her. Not without a court order. They walked to the waiting area. Victor Kane stood near the reception desk holding a paper bag. He was tall, clean cut, the kind of man who looked like he'd never hurt anyone. He smiled when he saw them. Warm, concerned. I'm here for my niece, Willa Ashford. I heard she got scared and ran off. Poor thing. She's been so sensitive since her parents died. Dr. Whitmore stepped forward. Mr. Kane Willa is under medical observation. She's not being discharged. Victor's smile didn't waver. I understand, but I'm her legal guardian. I'd like to see her. Make sure she's okay. She's stable. And you're not seeing her without clearance from family services. Victor's smile finally cracked, just a little. Now hold on, I've been doing my best with that girl. She's dramatic. She wanders. This is all a misunderstanding. Atlas spoke up. She's got hypothermia, frostbite, bruises, burn scars. That's not a misunderstanding. Victor's eyes went to Atlas, to the Hell's Angels patch. His expression cooled. And who are you, the man who found her dying behind a dumpster? Victor's jaw tightened. Then the smile came back, brighter, sharper. I appreciate you helping her. I do. But she's my responsibility. I love that girl. I just want to take her home. Dr. Whitmore pulled out her phone. I'm calling family services now. You can speak to them. Victor's eyes flashed, just for a second, cold. Then the mask returned. Of course. Do what you have to do. I'll wait. He sat down in a plastic chair, crossed his legs, opened the paper bag and pulled out a muffin. He looked like a man with all the time in the world. Back in Willa's room, Chalk handed her the phone. We need to hear the rest. Willa scrolled through the recordings. Her hands were steadier now. The warmth had brought feeling back to her fingers. Start with number 1. Chalk pressed play. Victor's voice. Sober this time. Talking to someone on another line. The trust clears January 8th. After that, it's clean. No audits. No questions. I've got the timeline locked down. A pause. Another voice muffled. Then Victor again. She's costing me money every day she's alive. I'm not running a charity. Chalk's face hardened. He moved to the next recording. Number 7, Victor talking to himself. Drunk. Tyler begged too. Didn't help her. Funny how the cold makes things look like accidents. Number 14, Victor on the phone with someone named Ross. The cabin deposit goes through on the 10th. After the trust clears, nobody connects the dots. I'll be in Montana by February. Recording after recording. Each one worse than the last. By the time they finished, Chalk's hands were shaking. He looked at Willa. You recorded all of this yourself, Willa nodded. I learned from crime shows. You need evidence. People don't believe kids without evidence. Chalk exhaled slowly. You're 8 years old and you built a case better than most detectives. Willa's face stayed serious. I had to, or I'd end up like Tyler. Who is Tyler, Willa? Willa pulled the blanket tighter. Tyler Markham. She was 11. Uncle Victor was her foster guardian. She died 3 years ago. Hypothermia. They said it was an accident. Chalk's stomach dropped. How do you know about her? I found her file in his desk. There was an insurance policy. $60,000. He got the money 2 months after she died. Jesus. Willa looked at him. Her eyes were too old for 8. He's going to say I'm lying. He's going to smile and they'll believe him. Chalk leaned forward. Not this time. We've got your recordings. We've got witnesses. We've got doctors who documented your injuries. He's not talking his way out of this. Willa's hand went to the compass. How do you know? Because you're not invisible anymore, Willa, and we're not looking away. By 5:30 in the morning, the parking lot at St. Bridget Medical Center had started to fill with a sound that didn't belong. Motorcycles. One by one they rolled in, low rumble of engines, headlights cutting through the pre-dawn dark, riders in leather, patches on their backs, Hell's Angels. They parked in formation, precise, disciplined. Not a rally, a deployment. By 6:15, there were 80 bikes. By 6:45, there were 130. By 180. They didn't block the doors, didn't make threats, just stood, arms crossed, eyes forward. A wall of witnesses. Deacon stepped into the hospital and found Atlas in the hallway outside Willa's room. She's still here. She's here. Good. We've got the perimeter. No one in or out without going through us. Atlas looked at his chapter president. Thanks for coming. Deacon's face was hard. We don't let kids freeze, brother. Ever. Inside the room, Willa was awake. She'd heard the motorcycles. She looked at Atlas. Why are they here? Atlas crouched down beside her bed. Because 180 men decided you matter. Willa stared at him. I don't even know them. Doesn't matter. You asked for help. We're answering. Willa's eyes filled. For the first time since Atlas found her, she cried. Not sobbing, just silent tears running down her face. Atlas stayed where he was, didn't tell her to stop, didn't tell her it was okay. He just let her cry. The social worker arrived at 7:20. Kim Alvarez, 43, hair pulled back, eyes that had seen too many cases like this. She listened to Dr. Whitmore's report, then to the recordings, all 23 of them. When they finished, she sat in silence for a full minute. Then she opened her laptop and started typing. Emergency protective hold. 72 hours. Suspected abuse, neglect, and endangerment. No guardian contact pending investigation. She looked at Atlas. You're the one who found her, yes, ma'am. She's lucky you stopped. I'm lucky I heard her. Kim turned to Whitmore. I need full documentation. Photos, statements, everything. You'll have it. Kim stood. And I need to talk to Victor Kane. He's in the waiting room. Kim's expression hardened. Good. Victor was still sitting in the plastic chair, still eating his muffin, still looking calm. Kim walked up to him. Mr. Kane. Victor stood, smiled. Yes, are you here about Willa? I've been so worried. I'm Kim Alvarez. Family Services. I need to ask you some questions. Of course, anything to help. Where does Willa sleep in your home? Victor didn't miss a beat. She has a room, we're renovating, so it's in the garage right now, but it's heated, comfortable. The garage, Victor nodded, temporary, just until we finish the upstairs. When did you last see Willa last night? Around 8, I checked on her before bed, and you didn't notice she was gone. Victor's smile faltered. Just a bit. I sleep deeply. She must have snuck out. Why would she sneak out? Victor spread his hands. She's been struggling since her parents died. She acts out sometimes. I've been doing my best. Kim didn't blink. Mr. Kane. Willa was found with hypothermia, frostbite, malnutrition, and evidence of sustained physical abuse. Can you explain that? Victor's face shifted. The smile stayed, but his eyes went cold. She's exaggerating. Kids do that. She's sensitive. She recorded you, Mr. Kane. Victor froze. Kim pulled out her phone, played recording number 12. Victor's voice filled the waiting room. January 8th, trust clears, no more kid expense, no more problem. The color drained from Victor's face. Kim stopped the recording. We have 23 more. We also have medical documentation. And we have a file on Tyler Markham. Victor's jaw clenched. That's out of context. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're not taking Willa. You're not contacting her. And you're going to need a lawyer. Victor stood up. His whole body vibrated with controlled rage. This is a mistake. I'm her legal guardian. You can't just, yes, I can. Emergency protective hold is active as of right now. You have no custodial rights for the next 72 hours minimum. If you attempt contact, you'll be arrested. Victor's mask finally shattered. You're making a mistake. That girl is manipulative. She's lying. Kim stepped closer. She's 8 years old, and she's braver than you'll ever be. Victor stared at her, then he turned and walked out. But not before he looked back once at the hallway that led to Willa's room. The look on his face made Atlas's blood run cold. Victor Kane wasn't giving up. He was planning. The sheriff arrived at 8:45. Lyle Keenan, 56, square jaw, eyes that didn't miss much. He listened to Kim's summary, listened to 3 of the recordings, looked at the photos of Willa's injuries. Then he looked at Atlas. You're the biker who found her. Yes, sir. And you called in your whole chapter. We wanted to make sure she stayed safe. Keenan studied him, then nodded. Appreciate that. He turned to Dr. Whitmore. I need a medical report, full documentation. You'll have it within the hour, and I need a warrant. Kim handed him a folder. Already drafted. Just needs a judge's signature. Keenan flipped through it. Search warrant for 611 County Road 12. Seizure of evidence related to child abuse and financial exploitation. He pulled out his phone. I'll call Judge Oaks. 20 minutes later, the warrant was signed. Keenan looked at Atlas. You want to ride along? Is that allowed? You're a witness, and I want someone there who knows what to look for. Atlas nodded. Let's go. Before they left, Atlas stopped by Willa's room. She was awake. Chalk was reading her a book. Something about a girl and a magical compass. Willa looked up. You're leaving just for a bit. Going to your uncle's house. Willa's face went pale. He's not there. No, he's not allowed to be. We're getting evidence. Willa reached under her blanket and pulled out the compass. Can you take this wise so you don't get lost? Atlas took the compass, felt the weight of it, the stuck needle. I'll bring it back. Promise, promise. The house looked normal, ranch style, white siding, neat lawn buried under snow, the kind of place where nothing bad ever happens. Keenan knocked on the door, no answer. He used the warrant, opened the door. The inside was clean, almost too clean, like a showroom. Kitchen first. Keenan opened the fridge. It was locked. Chain looped through the handles, combination lock. Atlas felt his stomach turn. Pantry next. Padlock. Keenan took photos. Then he found the garage door. Deadbolt, on the outside. He opened it. The smell hit them first. Mildew. Damp. Cold. The laundry room was 8 feet by 6 feet. A thin mattress on the floor. A bucket with a lid in the corner. A space heater unplugged and shoved against the wall. The window had screws in the frame, driven deep, except for one, the one Willa had worked loose. Keenan stood in the doorway and didn't say anything for a long time. Then he pulled out his camera and started documenting. Atlas walked through the main house. Bedroom, office, on the desk a calendar. December and January. January 8th was circled 3 times. In red ink, a note in the margin. Trust clears, problem solved. Atlas took a photo, then he opened the desk drawer. Inside a folder, labeled Tyler Markham Legal. He pulled it out, his hand shook. Death certificate, February 14, 2021. Cause accidental exposure. Insurance policy, $60,000. Beneficiary Victor Thorne Kane. And at the bottom a diary, 5 pages. Handwriting that got shakier with every entry. The last one said, so cold, I'm sorry I'm bad. Atlas closed his eyes. Keenan appeared in the doorway. Find something. Atlas handed him the folder. He's done this before. Keenan read through it. His face went gray. We're reopening Tyler Markham's case. Atlas nodded. And we're making damn sure Willa doesn't become the next one. They finished the search, bagged the evidence, locked the house. As they drove away, Atlas looked back once. The house looked normal, but it wasn't. It was a crime scene. Victor Kane was arrested at 10:15 in the morning. Sheriff Keenan found him at a diner off Highway 2, drinking coffee, eating eggs, looking calm. Victor Kane, you're under arrest for felony child abuse, unlawful imprisonment, misapplication of fiduciary property, and fraud. Additional charges pending. Victor set down his fork. This is ridiculous. Keenan didn't argue, just cuffed him. Read him his rights. You don't understand. I've been raising that girl. She's troubled. She lies. We found the locked fridge, the chain pantry, the room you kept her in. That's temporary. I told you, renovation. We found Tyler Markham's file. Victor went still. We're reopening her case, and we're charging you with her death too. Victor's face finally showed something real. Fear. I want a lawyer. Smart move. They walked him out, put him in the back of the cruiser. As they drove away, Victor looked back at the diner. His untouched eggs were still on the table, cold. When Atlas got back to the hospital, Willa was sitting up in bed. She looked at him, then at the compass in his hand. You found your way back. Atlas handed it to her. Told you I would. Willa turned the compass over, traced the initials, J+R. Did you find it? We found everything, the garage room, the locks, Tyler's file. Willa's voice was small. Is he arrested? Yes. Will he come back? Not without going through 180 of us first. Willa looked at him. Really, really. For the first time since Atlas met her, Willa smiled. It was small, fragile, but it was real. Thank you. Atlas sat down in the chair beside her bed. You did the hard part, kid. You survived. You planned. You recorded. You saved yourself. Willa shook her head. I froze behind a dumpster, and you stayed awake long enough for me to find you. That's not nothing. Willa looked at the compass. Mom said go toward the lights. You did, and you found help. Willa's eyes welled up. 4 people didn't help, but 1 did. Sometimes that's all it takes. Chalk appeared in the doorway. Hey, Willa, someone's here to see you. Willa tensed. Who? Your aunt. A woman stepped into the room. 35, brown hair, red coat still on. Her face was wet with tears. Oh, baby. She stopped, like she wasn't sure she had the right to say it. Willa stared at her. Aunt Corinne, the woman nodded. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Victor said you needed space. I should have pushed harder. I'm so sorry. Willa looked at her for a long moment. Then she asked the question that mattered. If I tell you something scary, will you believe me or him? Corinne dropped to her knees beside the bed. I choose you. Always tell me everything. Willa searched her face, looking for lies, for doubt. She didn't find any. She reached out one hand. Let Corinne take it. That was her way of saying yes. Atlas stood up, gave them space. As he walked out, he heard Willa start to talk, and he heard Corinne listen. Outside, the sun was up. 180 motorcycles still filled the parking lot. Deacon stood near the entrance, arms crossed. Atlas walked up beside him. She's got family, her aunt. Good. She's staying. For now, and Kane arrested. Bail hearing tomorrow. Deacon nodded. We stay until the hearing. Make sure he doesn't make bail. Atlas looked at the wall of bikers. Grown men who dropped everything to protect one kid they'd never met. Why'd you really come? Deacon was quiet for a moment. Then 20 years ago, my daughter told her teacher someone was hurting her. Teacher didn't believe her, said she was making it up for attention. 3 months later, my daughter was dead. Atlas didn't say anything. Deacon's voice stayed steady. I can't save my daughter, but I can make damn sure every other kid who asks for help gets it. He looked at Atlas. That little girl in there, she asked. We answered. That's what we do. Atlas nodded. The wall held. The Compass North Part 2 testimony. The morning after Victor Kane's arrest, Willa woke to find her room filled with flowers. Not expensive arrangements, simple things, daisies in plastic cups, carnations wrapped in grocery store cellophane, a single rose in a mason jar with a note that said, We see you now. The nurses said people had been dropping them off since dawn. Strangers, people who'd heard the story on the news. Willa touched the petals of the rose. They felt real. Everything still felt like it might disappear if she blinked too hard. Corinne sat in the chair by the window. She'd been there all night. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her hand was steady when she reached for Willa's. How are you feeling? Willa considered the question. Her fingers didn't hurt as much. The frostbite was healing. Her body temperature had been stable for 12 hours. But that wasn't what Corinne was asking. I keep thinking he's going to walk in. Corinne squeezed her hand. He can't. The restraining order is active. He comes within 500 feet of you, he goes to jail. Willa nodded, but her eyes still went to the door every time she heard footsteps. Dr. Whitmore came in during morning rounds. She checked Willa's vitals, examined her fingers, made notes on her tablet. You're healing well? We'll probably discharge you in 2 days. Willa's chest tightened. Where do I go? Dr. Whitmore looked at Corinne. Your aunt has applied for emergency kinship placement. Family Services is doing a home assessment today. What if they say no? Then you go to a temporary foster home until the assessment is complete. But either way, you don't go back to Victor Kane. That's not an option. Willa looked at Corinne. Do you want me? Corinne's voice broke. More than anything. Willa studied her aunt's face. She'd learned to read people over the last 16 months. Learned to see the difference between what they said and what they meant. Corinne's face showed only truth. Okay. The guilty witness's badge came by at 10. He brought a recorder and a legal pad. Willa, we need to build a case. That means I need to ask you some hard questions. You can stop any time. Okay, Willa nodded. Tell me about the 4 people you asked for help. Willa closed her eyes. Remembered. There was a woman at the BP station, silver SUV. I knocked on her window, showed her my bruises. What did she do? She asked where my coat was, like that was the problem. Then she rolled up her window and drove away. Badge wrote, do you remember what she looked like? Blonde hair, puffy jacket. She had a sticker on her car. Something about her kid being an honor student. Badge made a note. We'll find her. Who else? A truck driver. Big rig. He was parked at the truck stop. I asked if I could use his phone, and he said he had a record. Said if someone saw him with a kid and there was trouble, he'd go back to prison. He told me he was sorry, but he couldn't get involved. Willa opened her eyes. He looked sad when he said it. But he still left. Badge's jaw tightened. Anyone else security guard at the mall. I told him I needed help. He called his supervisor and asked if he should call the cops on me. Like I was the problem. What did you do? I left. I was scared they'd take me back to Uncle Victor. Badge set down his pen. Willa, I want you to understand something. Those people made choices, wrong choices. But this isn't your fault. Willa's throat felt tight. I know. Do you? Because a lot of kids in your situation think if they just asked better or looked different or said the right words, someone would have helped. But that's not how it works. Adults are supposed to help. Period. They failed. You didn't. Willa wiped her eyes. There was one more. A church lady. Badge picked up his pen. Tell me. She was putting up a sign outside a church. I asked for help and she said she'd pray for me. But she needed to go through proper channels. She said there was a process. What did she do? Nothing. She went inside. Badge closed his notebook. We're going to talk to every single one of them. Why? Because they need to understand what their silence cost. And because their testimony will show our jury that you tried, that you asked, that no one listened. Willa's hands twisted the blanket. Well, I have to see them only if you want to, but I think you should. Willa looked at him. Why? Badge leaned forward. Because right now they're living with guilt, and guilt makes people hide. But if you face them, if you tell them what happened after they walked away, some of them might find the courage to change, to help the next kid. Willa thought about that, about Tyler, about the next girl who might need help. Okay, I'll see them. Evan Klein. The cashier from Prairie Star came first. He stood in the doorway of Willa's hospital room like he was waiting for permission to exist. Evan Klein, 26 years old, thin, nervous. The kind of guy who looked like he apologized for taking up space. Willa sat up in bed, Corinne beside her, Badge in the corner. Come in. Evan took 2 steps, stopped. His hand shook. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I saw you. I saw you by the pumps and I knew something was wrong. Your lips were the wrong color. And I thought if I called and I was wrong, I'd get in trouble. So I didn't call. He couldn't finish. Willa watched him cry. Part of her wanted to make him feel better. That was the part that had spent 16 months learning to make adults comfortable so they wouldn't hurt her. But another part, the part that had frozen him behind a dumpster 50 feet from where he was working, needed him to sit with this. I was there for 3 hours. Evan flinched like she'd hit him. I could see the lights from the store. I could hear the bell every time the door opened. I kept thinking someone would come. Someone would look. I'm sorry, Willa's voice stayed level. I almost died. Do you know what happens when your body temperature drops below 90 degrees? Evan shook his head. Your heart stops working, right? Your brain shuts down. You stop shivering because there's no energy left. That's when you die. Evan sank into the chair, put his face in his hands. Willa let the silence stretch. Then, why didn't you help? I was scared. Of what? That I'd be wrong, that I'd make it worse, that it wasn't my place. It was your place. You were the closest person. You could have saved me 3 hours of freezing. Evan looked up. His face was wet. I know, and I'll never forgive myself. Willa studied him. You work at the Prairie Star still? Evan nodded. Do they have training for what to do when you see a kid in trouble? No. Willa leaned forward. Get training, make them put up signs. Make it so the next person who comes there, scared and cold, knows it's safe to ask. Evan wiped his face. I will. I promise. Don't promise me. Promise to the next kid. Evan stood. He looked at Willa like he was trying to memorize her face, like he needed to remember what his silence had cost. Thank you for seeing me. Willa didn't say that you're welcome. She just nodded. After he left, Badge spoke up. That was harder than testifying will be. Willa touched her compass. I know. But he needed to hear it. Janice Livingston. The neighbor came next day. Janice Livingston, 59, gray hair, hands that wouldn't stay still. She sat across from Willa and didn't make excuses. I called family services 3 months ago. I heard you crying through the walls. I saw you carrying heavy trash bags and thin gloves when it was 15 below. I watched you get smaller and quieter, and I knew. What did they say when you called? They came. A woman in a pantsuit. She talked to Victor outside. He smiled, laughed, showed her some papers. She left 20 minutes later. Willa's chest tightened. Did she ask to see me? No. Janice's voice cracked. The next day, Victor came to my door. He said if I kept meddling, he'd make sure the sheriff knew I was trespassing on his property. He said he had connections. He said I should mind my business. What did you do? I stopped calling. Why? Janice looked at her hands. Because I told myself if the county saw it and did nothing, what was my voice going to change? I told myself I was just one person. I told myself maybe I was wrong. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I wasn't wrong. I was a coward. Willa felt something complicated in her chest. Not quite forgiveness, not quite anger. You called once. Most people didn't call at all. Janice shook her head. Once wasn't enough. No, it wasn't. Silence filled the room. Then Willa asked, what are you going to do now? Janice straightened. I started a neighborhood watch program. 43 members so far. We meet every month. We talk about the signs, about what to look for, about calling again and again until someone listens. She pulled out a business card. Watch out, neighbors. We already caught one case of elder abuse, one case of domestic violence. Willa took the card. Keep calling, even when they don't listen the first time. Janice nodded. I will. I promise. After she left, Corinne spoke. You're very kind to them. Willa shook her head. I'm not being kind. I'm making sure they help the next kid. Because if they don't, Tyler and I don't matter. Lori Feldman, the teacher, came last. Ms. Feldman, 47, the woman who taught Willa third grade, who'd seen her fade. She could barely look at Willa. I failed you. Willa didn't disagree. Ms. Feldman sat down. Her hands were shaking. I saw everything. The way you stared at other kids' lunches. The way you flinched when anyone raised their voice. The bruise on your wrist that you said came from falling. You filed a report. Ms. Feldman's face crumpled. The principal called me into his office. He said Victor Kane was a community volunteer, a donor. He said the last thing we needed was to turn a grieving family situation into a circus. He told me to drop it. Did you? Ms. Feldman nodded. Then Victor pulled you out of school. Homeschool paperwork. Everything looked official. I told myself the system would catch it if something was wrong. She looked up. It didn't. You disappeared and I let you. Willa's voice was quiet. I wrote an essay. Remember my hero, about my mom. Ms. Feldman closed her eyes. You wrote about how she taught you to be brave. How she said even when you're scared, you keep going toward the light. That was a cry for help. I was telling you I needed someone to be brave for me. I know. Tears ran down Ms. Feldman's face. I'm so sorry. I read it and I thought it was beautiful and I gave you an A and I didn't see what you were really saying. Willa felt her own tears coming. You were my favorite teacher. That makes it worse. Willa wiped her eyes. What are you doing now? Ms. Feldman pulled out a folder. I'm training teachers across the state, spotting the signs. I've done 50 workshops, 500 teachers trained. I made a curriculum. She opened the folder. Signs of abuse, how to report, what to do when administration pushes back, how to document, how to keep calling. The tagline at the top said, when a child goes quiet, lean in louder. Willa read it, then looked at her teacher. Don't let another me disappear, Mr. Feldman's voice was fierce. Never again. I swear it. After she left, Willa sat quietly. Corinne touched her shoulder. You okay? Willa nodded. They're trying to fix it. Does that help a little? It won't bring Tyler back. But maybe it'll save the next Tyler, the prosecutor. Amanda Chen arrived on day 3, not Chen. Badge had made sure of that after Atlas flagged the name. Amanda Reeves. Assistant District Attorney, 38. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. She sat down with Willa and didn't waste time. Willa, I'm going to be honest with you. This case is strong. We have your recordings. We have medical evidence. We have the search warrant findings. We have Tyler Markham's file. But the defense is going to argue that you're a traumatized child with an overactive imagination. I'm not imagining the burns on my wrist, I know. But they'll say you did it for attention. They'll say you ran away and hurt yourself to get your uncle in trouble. Willa's stomach twisted. That's not true, I know it's not. But we need to prove it, which means I need you to testify. Corinne spoke up. She's 8 years old. Can't you use video testimony? We could. But video testimony is easier to dismiss. The jury needs to see her, needs to hear her story in her own words. Amanda looked at Willa. I won't lie to you. It's going to be hard. Victor's lawyer is going to ask you difficult questions. He's going to try to confuse you, make you doubt yourself. Willa thought about Tyler, about the diary entry that said, I'm sorry, I'm bad. Tyler didn't get to tell her story. No, she didn't. I'll tell it for both of us. Amanda's expression softened. You sure? Willa pulled out her compass, looked at the stuck needle. My mom said when you're lost, go toward the light. The courtroom has lights. I'll go there. Amanda nodded. Okay, then we prep. Hard. For the next week, Willa prepared. Badge taught her how to answer questions. Short, direct, don't elaborate unless asked. Chalk taught her breathing techniques for when the anxiety got too big. 5 counts in, 5 counts out. Amanda walked her through the defense's strategy. They'll ask if you ever lied to your uncle. Say yes. Tell them you lied to survive. Willa practiced in front of a mirror. Practiced looking at the camera that would record her testimony. Practiced keeping her voice steady when she talked about the garage room. At night, she had nightmares. Woke up checking the door, making sure it wasn't locked from the outside. Corinne was always there. Never told her to go back to sleep. Just sat with her until the fear passed. One night, Willa asked, what if they don't believe me? Corinne brushed hair from Willa's forehead. Then we appeal. We fight. We don't stop until they do. What if he gets out, then 180 bikers and one very angry aunt make sure he doesn't get near you? Willa almost smiled. You'd fight him. Corinne's voice was steel. I'd do anything to keep you safe. Willa believed her. Deacon came by on day 5. He brought paperwork. We set up a fund, North Star Safe Kids Fund, legal, nonprofit, transparent. What's it for you and kids like you? He showed her the numbers. $180,000. Donated in 10 days. Willa stared at the figure. That's too much. It's not nearly enough. We're using it for your therapy, your education, legal fees for your aunt, winter clothes, whatever you need. Willa's throat felt tight. I don't need that much. Deacon sat down. The rest goes to other kids, girls like Tyler. We're setting up a system. When Family Services gets a report, we fund immediate intervention. Therapy, safe housing, legal representation. He looked at Willa. We're calling it Tyler's Fund, in her memory. Willa touched the compass. She'd like that. There's more. We want you to be part of the board. When you're older, when you're ready, we want you to help decide who gets help. Why me? Because you know what it feels like to be invisible. You'll see the kids everyone else misses. Willa thought about that. Okay, when I'm ready, no rush, you heal first. The bail hearing was on day 7. Willa didn't attend, but Atlas did, and so did 180 Hell's Angels. They filled the courthouse steps, silent, watchful. Inside, Victor's lawyer argued for bail. $60,000, ankle monitor, no contact with the victim. Amanda stood up. Your Honor, the defendant is a flight risk. He has liquid assets from the victim's trust fund. He has a history of exploiting vulnerable children for financial gain. And we have evidence he was planning to leave the state after January 8th. She submitted the calendar. The note that said Montana by February. The judge read it, looked at Victor. Bail is denied. Defendant is remanded to county jail pending trial. Victor's face went white. Outside, Atlas called Willa. He's staying locked up. Willa exhaled. For how long until trial? Could be 3 months. That's not long enough. No, but it's a start. The call came on day 9, a woman named Sarah, Tyler Markham's biological aunt. She'd been searching for Tyler for 3 years. The system told her Tyler had died in an accident, told her the case was closed, told her to move on. But Sarah hadn't moved on. When the news broke about Victor's arrest, Sarah saw Tyler's name, saw the insurance policy, saw the diary entries. She called the prosecutor's office. Then she called the hospital. Willa took the call in her room, Corinne beside her. Sarah's voice was rough with crying. I didn't know. I tried to get custody when Tyler went into foster care. Victor had a better lawyer. I lost. They said he was more stable. Willa's chest ached. I'm sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. You survived. You got evidence. You did what Tyler couldn't do. Silence on the line. Then Sarah asked, "Can I meet you?" Willa looked at Corinne. Her aunt nodded, yes. Sarah came the next day. She was 42, thin, worn down by grief. She carried a photo album. She sat across from Willa and opened it. This is Tyler, a girl with dark hair and a gap-toothed smile, 11 years old, eyes that looked too serious for her age. She looks like she was nice. She was. Smart too, loved reading, wanted to be a teacher. Sarah turned pages. Tyler at 9, Tyler at 10, Tyler with a birthday cake. Then the photo stopped. Sarah's hands shook. I got a call from Family Services. February 15th, 2021. They said Tyler had been found. Hypothermia. The medical examiner ruled it accidental. Did you believe them? Sarah shook her head. Tyler was careful. She wouldn't have gone outside in a storm without a coat. But I was just an aunt. I had no legal standing. They closed the case before I could ask questions. Willa pulled out her phone. Recording number 7. She played it. Victor's voice. Tyler begged too. Didn't help her. Sarah's face shattered. She sobbed. The kind of crying that comes from 3 years of not knowing and finally having confirmation. Willa waited. Let her cry. When Sarah could speak again, she looked at Willa. Thank you. Thank you for getting proof. Thank you for making them see. Willa's voice was small. I'm sorry I couldn't save her. Sarah reached across and took Willa's hand. You did save her. You made sure people remember her name. You made sure he pays. That's everything. Sarah asked if they could do a memorial for Tyler, something public, so the community could see what their silence cost. Willa agreed. They held it at Maple Ridge Elementary, the school Tyler would have attended if she'd lived. 500 people came. Teachers, parents, students, strangers who'd heard the story and couldn't stay away. Sarah spoke first, talked about Tyler, her laugh, her dreams, the way she'd loved chocolate chip cookies and hated math homework. Then she talked about the system that failed her. Ms. Feldman spoke next. Read from Tyler's diary. The courtroom had heard the words, but the community hadn't. When she read the last entry, "It's so cold, I'm sorry, I'm bad," people wept. Then Willa stood up. She was small behind the podium, had to stand on a box to reach the microphone. My name is Willa June Ashford. I'm 80 years old. I never met Tyler Markham, but I read her diary, and I know she wasn't bad. She was scared. She was alone, and nobody listened. Her voice carried across the silent crowd. Tyler died because people didn't look, didn't call, didn't push back when they were told to mind their business. I almost died for the same reason. She held up her compass. My mom gave me this. She said, when you're lost, go toward the light. Tyler went toward the light. She asked for help, but the light turned away. Willa's hands shook, but her voice stayed steady. We're planting a tree today. Tyler's tree. So everyone who walks by has to see her name, has to remember, has to ask themselves, am I looking? Am I listening? Am I brave enough to call again when the first call doesn't work? She looked out at the crowd. Don't let there be another Tyler. Don't let there be another me. See the invisible kids before they freeze. The silence after she spoke was absolute. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Then everyone. They planted the tree, a young oak, strong enough to survive North Dakota winters. The plaque read Tyler Markham, 2010-2021. Seen, remembered, never forgotten. Willa touched the trunk. Whispered, I told your story. They heard. Victor's lawyer was good. Marcus Webb. 54, expensive suit. The kind of lawyer who made juries doubt themselves. He filed motions, tried to suppress the recordings, argued they were obtained illegally, that an 8-year-old couldn't consent to recording someone. The judge denied it. The recordings were made by the victim for her own protection, admissible. Webb tried to suppress Tyler's file, argued it was prejudicial, not relevant to the current case. The judge allowed it. Pattern of behavior is relevant. So Webb shifted strategy. He subpoenaed Willa's school records, found the creative writing assignments, stories about mean uncles and brave girls who escaped. He planned to argue she's been writing fiction for years. This is just another story, Amanda warned Willa. They're going to say you made it up. Willa looked at her scarred wrist. Can they explain these? They'll try. They'll say you did it yourself for attention. Willa's jaw set. Then I'll tell the jury the truth. and let them decide who's lying. The trial started on a Monday in December. Snow falling outside. Courtroom packed. Jury selection took 2 days. Amanda struck anyone who seemed sympathetic to authority figures. Anyone who said kids exaggerate. Webb struck anyone who seemed too emotional. Anyone with kids of their own. They ended up with 12 people, 7 women, 5 men, ages ranging from 25 to 68. The judge read the charges: felony child abuse, unlawful imprisonment, fraud, misapplication of fiduciary property, and in Tyler's case, negligent homicide. Victor sat at the defense table in a suit, hair combed, expression somber. He looked like a man who'd been wrongly accused, but when his eyes swept the courtroom and landed on Willa, something cold flickered there. Willa stared back. She wasn't afraid anymore. Amanda stood first. Members of the jury, this case is about a man who looked at vulnerable children and saw dollar signs. Willa Ashford's parents died 16 months ago. They left her a trust fund, $314,000. Enough to give her a future. She walked toward the jury box. Victor Kane became her legal guardian. And over the next 16 months, he systematically isolated, abused, and exploited her. He locked her in a garage. He chained the refrigerator. He burned her when she took food. Amanda's voice dropped. And he planned to kill her, just like he killed Tyler Markham 3 years ago. Webb objected. Speculation. Sustained. Ms. Reeves, stick to facts. Amanda nodded. The facts are these: Willa recorded 23 conversations where Victor Kane discussed eliminating her after the trust fund cleared. The facts are Tyler Markham died under suspicious circumstances while in his care, and he collected $60,000. The facts are Willa nearly froze to death trying to escape him. She looked at the jury. This 8-year-old girl survived what most adults couldn't, and she did it by being smarter and braver than the man who tried to destroy her. Webb stood for his opening. His voice was calm, reasonable. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear a lot of emotional testimony. You're going to see a frightened child, and your instinct will be to protect her. He paused. But I ask you to look past emotion. Look at evidence. Look at facts. He gestured to Victor. Victor Kane took in his niece after an unimaginable tragedy. He fed her, clothed her, tried to give her stability. Was he perfect? No. He made mistakes. He was overwhelmed. Webb picked up a folder. But this case isn't about mistakes. It's about a troubled child with an overactive imagination who wrote stories about mean uncles for years before she decided to make one real. Amanda stood. Objection. Overruled. Continue, Mr. Webb. Webb smiled. We'll show you school records, creative writing assignments where Willa wrote elaborate stories about abuse that never happened. We'll show you that she's a skilled liar, that she manipulated adults, that she created a false narrative to get attention. He looked at the jury. Don't let sympathy cloud your judgment. Look at the evidence. All of it. He sat down. Willa's hands gripped her compass so hard her knuckles went white. Corinne whispered, "He's wrong. The jury will see." Willa hoped she was right. Day 1 testimony. Dr. Whitmore took the stand first. Amanda walked her through the medical findings. Body temperature 89.8 degrees, frostbite, malnutrition, healed fractures, burn scars. In your professional opinion, were these injuries consistent with a child who ran away once? No. These are injuries consistent with prolonged abuse and neglect. Webb cross-examined. Doctor, you testified the child had healed fractures. Could those have come from normal childhood activities? Falling off a bike, playing sports, Dr. Whitmore's voice was firm. Ribs don't fracture from falling off a bike. They fracture from blunt force trauma. Could a child fracture her own ribs? Not in this pattern. These fractures are consistent with being kicked or struck repeatedly. Webb smiled, but you can't say for certain who caused them. I can say an 8-year-old didn't fracture her own ribs. The jury wrote notes. Badge testified next. Walk them through the search warrant, the locked garage room, the chained refrigerator, the calendar with January 8th circled. Webb asked, did you find any witnesses who saw Victor Kane abuse this child? Badge's jaw tightened. No. So all you have is circumstantial evidence and the word of a child, and 23 recordings, and Tyler Markham's file, and medical evidence. That's not just a child's word, Mr. Webb. That's a mountain of corroboration. The jury nodded. Kim Alvarez testified about the protective hold, about Victor's demeanor when confronted. He showed no concern for Willa's well-being, only anger that he'd been caught. Webb asked, isn't it possible he was angry about false accusations? If they were false, why did he have a calendar marking the date her trust fund would clear with a note saying, problem solved? Kim looked at the jury. I've been a social worker for 19 years. I know the difference between a misunderstanding and predatory behavior. This was predatory. The courtroom was silent. On day 2, they played the recordings, all 23 of them. The jury listened to Victor's voice, calm, matter of fact, talking about Willa like she was a business expense. Recording 12 after January 8th, trust clears. No more kid expense, no more problem. Tyler worked out fine. This one will too. Several jurors looked at Victor. His face stayed neutral. Recording 18, she's costing me $48 a day. Do the math. $314,000 minus 16 months of her eating my food. Still profitable, but only if I close it out on schedule. One juror wiped her eyes. Webb objected throughout. Hearsay, lack of context, taken out of chronological order. The judge allowed them all. When the last recording finished, the courtroom sat in heavy silence. Amanda stood. The defense will tell you these are taken out of context. I ask you, what context makes Tyler worked out fine acceptable when Tyler Markham is dead? Webb had no answer for that. Sarah Markham testified on day 3. She talked about losing custody, about the call telling her Tyler was dead, about 3 years of trying to get answers. When Victor Kane was arrested, I finally understood. Tyler didn't die in an accident. She was murdered for $60,000. Webb objected. No murder charges have been filed. The judge sustained. The jury will disregard. But the jury had already heard it. Tyler's diary was entered into evidence, read aloud by the court clerk. The courtroom wept. Willa sat in the gallery and listened, every word carved into her memory. When the clerk read the last entry, "It's so cold, I'm sorry, I'm bad." Willa stood up. Amanda hadn't planned for this, but she didn't stop her. Willa walked to the front, looked at the judge. "Can I say something?" The judge looked at Amanda, then at Willa. "This is highly irregular. Please," the judge paused. "Brief statement only." Willa turned to face the jury. Tyler Markham wrote that she was sorry. She wasn't sorry. She was failed. By adults, by a system, by people who didn't look. Her voice shook but didn't break. I read her diary. I saw myself. If Atlas hadn't stopped, I would have written the same words. And someone would be reading them in a courtroom 3 years from now. The judge spoke gently. "Willa, you'll have your chance to testify. I know. I just needed them to know Tyler wasn't bad. And neither am I." She walked back to her seat. The jury watched her the whole way. That night, Willa couldn't sleep. Tomorrow she'd take the stand. Tomorrow she'd have to look at Victor and tell the truth. Corinne sat with her. Atlas brought hot chocolate. Chalk ran through breathing exercises one more time. "What if I mess up?" "You won't." "What if they don't believe me?" Atlas spoke up. "Kid, you walked 2 miles in sub-zero temperatures with no coat. You recorded your abuser for 4 months. You survived 16 months of hell. You can handle 1 day on a witness stand." Willa looked at him. "Will you be there front row?" Chalk added, "And if you get scared, look at us. We'll be right there." Willa nodded, touched her compass. The needle still stuck. Tomorrow she'd point herself north, toward the lights. The compass north, part 3. North Star. Willa woke at 5 in the morning on the day she would testify. The room was dark except for the streetlight glow through the window. Corinne was asleep in the chair beside her bed, head tilted at an angle that would make her neck ache. Willa slid out of bed quietly, picked up the compass from the nightstand. The brass was cold in her palm. She walked to the window. Outside, snow fell in lazy spirals. The world looked clean, innocent. Nothing like what waited for her at the courthouse. She pressed the compass to her chest, closed her eyes. "Mom, if you can hear me, I need you to help me be brave today." The stuck needle trembled, just the movement of her heartbeat. But Willa chose to believe it was something more. The drive to court. They left at 7:30, Corinne driving, Atlas following on his bike, Chalk in the passenger seat of Corinne's car. Willa sat in the back watching the town slide past. The BP station where the woman had rolled up her window. The truck stop where the driver had said, "I can't get involved." The mall where the security guard had threatened to call the cops. Every place she'd been invisible. Today, she would be seen. The courthouse steps were lined with people, not protesters, supporters, women holding signs, "We believe Willa," teachers with banners, mandatory reporters, "Stand with victims," and 180 motorcycles parked in perfect formation. Willa stared. "Why are they all here?" Atlas leaned down to her window. "Because you asked for help once and nobody came. This time everybody's coming." Willa's throat went tight. Deacon approached, crouched down to her level. "You ready? No. Good. Only fools are ready for hard things. Brave people do them scared." Willa nodded, stepped out of the car. The crowd saw her, went silent, then started clapping. Not loud, not overwhelming, just steady. A sound that said, "We see you." Willa walked up the courthouse steps, through the doors, into the building where she would either be believed or destroyed. The courtroom, the gallery was packed, every seat filled. Amanda met them in the hallway. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "You remember what we talked about, short answers. Tell the truth. Don't elaborate unless asked. And if you get confused or scared, ask for a break." Amanda nodded. "You're going to do great." Willa wasn't so sure. They entered the courtroom. Willa sat in the front row beside Corinne, Atlas on her other side. Victor was already at the defense table. He looked at her, smiled, not threatening, just pleasant, like they were meeting at a family dinner instead of a felony trial. Willa's stomach turned. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Court is in session. The people may call their next witness. Amanda stood. The people call Willa June Ashford. This was it. Taking the stand. Willa walked to the witness stand. Each step felt like walking through water. The bailiff held out a Bible. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" Willa's voice came out small. "I do." She sat down. The chair was too big. Her feet didn't touch the ground. The jury was 8 feet away, 12 faces watching her. Victor was 15 feet away, still smiling. Amanda approached, gentle, like Willa was a bird that might startle. "Willa, can you tell the jury your name and age, Willa June Ashford?" "I'm 8 years old." "Where do you live?" Willa hesitated. "With my Aunt Corinne. Before that, I lived at 611 County Road 12 with my Uncle Victor." "How long did you live with Victor?" 16 months. "Why did you go to live with him?" "My parents died. Car accident on Highway 2. Victor was my mom's brother. He became my guardian." Amanda nodded. "Can you tell the jury about your first month living with Victor?" Willa's hands twisted together. "It wasn't too bad at first. He smiled a lot, told people he was honored to raise me. But at home, he was different. Different how he counted my bites at dinner. Told me I ate too much, said I was expensive. Did he say anything else about money? He said I cost him $48 a day. He said I needed to earn it or starve." A juror shifted, wrote something down. Amanda continued. "Where did you sleep in Victor's house?" Willa's voice dropped. "The garage, in the laundry room. For how long?" 14 months. "Can you describe the room?" "It was small, 8 feet by 6 feet. There was a mattress on the floor, a bucket, a space heater, but he unplugged it. The window had screws, so I couldn't open it. Was the door locked from the outside? I couldn't get out. The courtroom was silent except for the scratch of pencils on paper." Amanda walked to the evidence table, picked up photos. "May I approach the witness, Yuming?" Amanda showed Willa the photos from the search warrant. "Is this the room where you slept?" Willa looked at the image, the thin mattress, the bucket, the window with screws. "Yes," her voice cracked on the word. Amanda gave her a moment. "Then Willa, did Victor ever hurt you physically?" Willa nodded. "You have to say it out loud for the record." "Yes, he hurt me." "Can you tell the jury about one time?" Willa closed her eyes. Remembered. Month 9. I was hungry. I took a cracker from the pantry. He caught me. "What did he do?" "He said thieves get marked." He held my wrist and pressed his cigarette into my skin. Willa held up her arm. The jury could see the circular scars. 2 jurors looked away. One wiped her eyes. Amanda's voice stayed gentle. "Did you tell anyone I tried?" "I told my teacher, Miss Feldman. She asked about my lunch. I said I wasn't hungry." The next week, Victor brought donuts to school. Everyone laughed. She stopped asking. Why didn't you tell her the truth? Willa's voice was barely a whisper. Because I was scared. And because I thought if I said something, no one would believe me. He was charming. Everyone liked him. The jury looked at Victor. He maintained his expression. Sad, concerned. Amanda continued for 20 more minutes, walking Willa through the timeline. The homeschool withdrawal, the locked food, the increasing isolation. Then she asked the big question. Willa, did you record conversations with your uncle? Yes. Why? Willa looked at the jury. Because people don't believe kids without proof. I learned that when I tried to get help and nobody listened. So I got proof. How did you get the phone? I stole it from his junk drawer. It was old. He'd forgotten about it. How many recordings did you make? 23. Did your uncle know you were recording him? No. Amanda nodded. No further questions, Your Honor. The judge looked at Webb. Your witness. Webb stood, and Willa's hands started shaking. Cross-examination. Webb approached slowly. His smile was kind, practiced. Hello, Willa. My name is Mr. Webb. I'm going to ask you some questions. Okay. Willa nodded. You have to say yes or no. Okay, Willa, you love your Uncle Victor, don't you? Willa's breath caught. I don't know. You lived with him for 16 months. He fed you, gave you a place to sleep. Didn't he? He locked the food. He made me sleep in the garage. Webb's smile didn't waver. But he gave you a place to live when you had nowhere else to go. Correct, Willa's voice was small. Yes. And you were very sad when your parents died. Weren't you? So sad that sometimes you didn't know what was real and what wasn't. Amanda stood. Objection, leading, sustained. Webb shifted. Willa, at school, did you write creative stories? Willa hesitated. Yes, stories about mean uncles and brave girls who escaped. Sometimes, Webb picked up a folder. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Defense Exhibit A, Willa's creative writing portfolio from Maple Ridge Elementary. The judge allowed it. Webb showed the jury. Stories written over 2 years, all featuring similar themes. Abusive guardians, children who outsmarted adults. He looked at Willa. You're good at making up stories, aren't you? Willa's hands gripped the chair. Those were stories. This is real. How do we know the difference? Willa's voice rose. Because I have scars. Because I recorded him. Because Tyler Markham is dead. Webb's expression shifted. Just slightly. Tyler Markham's death was ruled accidental. It wasn't an accident. Were you there when Tyler died? No. So you don't actually know what happened. I read her diary. I heard him talk about her. He said Tyler worked out fine. That means he killed her. Webb turned to the jury. Or it means he successfully fostered a child who tragically died in an accident. You're inferring, Willa, not stating facts. Willa felt tears coming. Blinked them back. Webb pressed. Willa, did you ever lie to your uncle? Amanda had prepared her for this. Yes, so you're a liar. Willa's voice shook but stayed firm. I lied to survive. I said I'm fine when I was starving. I said I love you when I was terrified. I lied because if I told the truth, he hurt me worse. But you lied. Yes. To him. I'm not lying now. How do we know? Willa looked at the jury. Because I don't have to lie anymore. I have proof, Webb smiled. Let's talk about that proof, these recordings. You made them secretly correct, yes. Without your uncle's permission, he would have stopped me if I asked. So you were sneaking around, deceiving him. I was documenting abuse. Or you were creating evidence for a story you'd been planning for years. Willa's voice broke. Why would I make this up? Webb's tone was gentle. Poison wrapped in kindness. Maybe because you were grieving. Maybe because you wanted attention. Maybe because you didn't want to live with the rules your uncle set. He locked me in a garage. He gave you a room during renovations. It was a cage. It was temporary housing. Willa was crying now. She hated herself for it, but couldn't stop. Webb softened his voice. I know this is hard, Willa. I know you miss your parents. I know you've been through trauma. But trauma can make us confused. Can make us, I'm not confused. He tried to kill me. Did he ever say those words, I'm going to kill you? Willa thought of the recordings, the calendar, January 8th. He said after January 8th, the problem would be solved. I'm the problem. Or the problem was financial stress, or paperwork, or any number of things an adult deals with. I almost froze to death because you ran away in the middle of the night without proper clothing. I ran because he was going to kill me. Webb looked at the jury. Or because you were a grieving, confused child who misinterpreted adult stress as danger. He turned back to Willa. No further questions. Willa sat there shaking, feeling like she'd failed. Amanda stood for redirect. Willa, Mr. Webb asked if Victor ever said he'd kill you. Did he ever say he loved you? Willa looked up. No, never. Did he ever ask how you were feeling? No. Did he ever comfort you when you were sad about your parents? Willa's voice was firm now. No, he said I needed to get over it. That grief was expensive. Amanda nodded. You told Mr. Webb that you lied to survive. Can you explain what you mean? Willa took a breath. When someone has power over you, you tell them what they want to hear. You smile when they want you to smile. You stay quiet when they want silence. You lie to stay alive. And are you lying now? Willa looked at Victor, then at the jury. No, I'm telling the truth for the first time in 16 months. Thank you, Willa. No further questions. The judge spoke gently. You may step down. Willa walked back to her seat on shaking legs. Corinne pulled her close. Atlas put a hand on her shoulder. You did good, kid. Willa wasn't sure she believed him. Closing arguments. The prosecution rested after Willa's testimony. Webb called no witnesses. His strategy was simple, create doubt. Closing arguments happened the next day. Amanda went first. Members of the jury, Victor Kane is a predator. He targets vulnerable children. He gains legal custody. He isolates them. He exploits their trust funds. And when they are no longer profitable, he eliminates them. She walked them through the evidence again. The recordings, the locked room, Tyler's file, the calendar. Willa Ashford is alive because she was smarter than Victor Kane. She documented his abuse. She planned her escape. She survived hypothermia, and she had the courage to testify. Amanda looked at the jury. The defense wants you to believe she's a confused, traumatized child. But confused children don't make 23 recordings. They don't steal phones and hide them for months. They don't plan escapes and navigate 2 miles in a blizzard. She pointed at Victor. That man saw a little girl who'd lost everything and decided she was worth $314,000 dead and $48 a day alive. He made a calculation. Willa June Ashford disrupted that calculation. Amanda's voice dropped. Don't let him recalculate. Don't let him walk free to find another Tyler. Another Willa. Find him guilty. Protect the next child. She sat down. Webb stood for the defense. His voice was calm, reasonable. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is tragic. A little girl lost her parents. A man tried his best to raise her. Was he perfect? No. Did he make mistakes? Yes. But mistakes are not crimes. He gestured to the evidence. You heard recordings taken out of context. You saw a room that was temporary housing during renovations. You heard testimony from a child who has written fictional abuse stories for years. Webb looked at the jury. I'm not asking you to believe Willa is evil. I'm asking you to believe she's confused, grieving, traumatized. And in her trauma, she created a narrative that made sense of her pain. He pointed at the recordings. Problem solved doesn't mean murder. It means paperwork, financial stress, adult responsibilities. Webb's voice was gentle. Victor Kane is not a monster. He's a man who tried to help and got demonized for it. Don't let sympathy cloud your judgment. Look at the evidence objectively. You'll see reasonable doubt. He sat down. The judge instructed the jury. They filed out to deliberate. Willa sat in the hallway, waiting the verdict. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, long enough to make Willa's stomach twist, short enough that Amanda said it was a good sign. They came back at 3:47 in the afternoon. The courtroom filled. Willa sat between Corinne and Atlas. The jury filed in. None of them looked at Victor. That was a good sign, too. The judge spoke. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreperson stood. An older woman, gray hair, glasses. We have your honor. On the charge of felony child abuse, how do you find guilty? Willa's breath caught. On the charge of unlawful imprisonment, how do you find guilty? On the charge of fraud and misapplication of fiduciary property, how do you find guilty? The foreperson continued. Guilty on all counts related to Willa June Ashford. On the charge of negligent homicide in the death of Tyler Markham, how do you find the courtroom held its breath? Guilty. Victor's face went white. His lawyer put a hand on his arm. Willa started crying, not from fear, from relief. Corinne pulled her close. It's over. You're safe. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks, remanded Victor to custody. As they led him out in handcuffs, Victor looked at Willa one last time. His smile was finally gone. The sentencing hearing was packed. Willa didn't have to attend, but she wanted to. Sarah Markham gave a victim impact statement for Tyler. Talked about 3 years of not knowing, of finally getting justice. Corinne gave one for Willa. Talked about the nightmares, the PTSD, the way Willa still checked locks and hoarded food. Then the judge asked if Willa wanted to speak. Amanda had prepared a statement, but Willa set it aside. She stood, walked to the microphone. My name is Willa June Ashford. I'm 8 years old. In 16 months, Victor Kane took my childhood, my safety, and almost my life. She looked at him. He sat at the defense table, staring at nothing, but he didn't take everything. I still have my mom's compass. I still have people who believe me, and I still have a future. Her voice was steady now. Tyler Markham doesn't. She died scared and alone and thinking she was bad. She wasn't bad. She was killed. Willa looked at the judge. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for protection. For me. For the next girl. For every kid who's invisible. She sat down. The judge took off her glasses. Wiped them. Put them back on. Mr. Kane, you exploited the most vulnerable among us. You targeted orphan children. You drained their resources. And you planned their deaths with the casual calculation of a business transaction. She opened her file. The court sentences you to 22 years in state prison, no possibility of parole for 15 years. You will pay full restitution of $314,000 plus penalties. You will have a lifetime no-contact order with Willa Ashford. The gavel came down. Victor was led away. This time, he didn't look back. 3 months later, Willa moved into Corinne's house permanently. The home assessment had been thorough, invasive, but Corinne passed everything. The house was small, 3 bedrooms, a yard, normal. Willa's room had a door that locked from the inside, a nightlight that stayed on, and a shelf for her compass. She still had nightmares, still woke up checking the door. But Corinne was always there. Some nights they sat together in silence. Other nights Corinne read to her. Anything but stories about orphans and evil guardians. Therapy helped. Chalk recommended someone. Dr. Sarah Lynn. She didn't push. Just let Willa talk when she was ready. Willa talked about Tyler a lot, about feeling like she had to live for both of them now. Dr. Lynn said that was a lot of weight for an 8-year-old. Willa said she knew, but she'd carry it anyway. Returning to school, Willa went back to Maple Ridge in January. Ms. Feldman was still there, still teaching 3rd grade. She'd asked if Willa wanted a different teacher. Willa said no. Ms. Feldman had learned. That mattered. The first day was hard. Everyone stared, whispered. But then a girl named Sophia sat next to her at lunch. You're Willa, right? Willa nodded. I saw you on the news. You're really brave. Willa shrugged. I was really scared. Sophia smiled. That's what brave means, being scared and doing it anyway. They ate lunch together, didn't talk much, but the silence was comfortable. By the end of the week, Willa had 2 friends. By the end of the month, 4. She was still quiet, still watchful, but she was learning to be a kid again. The compass repaired circuit called in February, said he'd found someone who could fix the compass, an old watchmaker. Marine veteran, worked out of his garage. Willa and Corinne drove there on a Saturday. The shop smelled like oil and metal and something old. The man was 72, calloused hands, kind eyes. He took the compass, turned it over, saw the initials. This meant something to someone. My mom. What was her name? Jenna. The man nodded. I'll fix it for Jenna. It took him 2 weeks. When it came back, the needle moved smoothly. No sticking. It found north like it had been waiting to. Willa held it, turned it, watched the needle settle. She cried. First time in weeks. Corinne knelt beside her. What's wrong? Willa shook her head. Nothing's wrong. It works. Mom's compass works. And that means Willa wiped her eyes. That means I found my way. Tyler's tree on the anniversary of Tyler's death. Willa went to the tree. It was February 14th, cold, clear. The oak had survived its first winter. New buds forming on the branches. Sarah was there. She brought flowers. Willa brought a letter. She'd written it in therapy. Derlyn said sometimes you had to say things to people who couldn't hear them anymore. She read it aloud. Dear Tyler, my name is Willa. I never met you, but I feel like I know you. I read your diary. I saw how scared you were, how you thought you were bad. You weren't bad. You were brave. You asked for help. People failed you. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, but I made sure people know your name. I made sure Victor can't hurt anyone else. I made sure you matter. Willa's voice broke. I'm going to live big enough for both of us. I'm going to help other kids. I'm going to make sure no one else is invisible. I promise. She folded the letter and buried it at the base of the tree. Sarah put her hand on Willa's shoulder. She'd be proud of you. Willa nodded, touched the tree trunk. Then she and Sarah walked away, together. The North Star Fund. By spring, the North Star Safe Kids Fund had grown to $212,000. Deacon asked Willa if she wanted to be part of the board. Not now, but someday, when she was ready. Willa said yes. In the meantime, she helped in small ways, wrote letters to kids in the program, told them she understood, told them it got better. One girl, Mia, was 7, rescued from a neglect situation, wouldn't talk to anyone. Willa asked if she could meet her. They sat in the fund office. Willa didn't push, just showed Mia the compass. This was my mom's. The needle was stuck for a long time. But someone fixed it. Now it works. Mia touched it. Does it hurt to trust people again? Willa didn't lie. Yeah, it hurts, but it hurts more to be alone. I know because I was alone for 16 months. Mia looked at her. Are you alone now? No, I have my aunt. I have friends. I have people who see me. Mia's voice was small. Do you think someone will see me? Willa nodded. I see you right now. You're not invisible. Mia's eyes filled. She nodded. It was a start. Willa's law. The state legislature took up child welfare reform in March. They called it Willa's Law. Mandatory quarterly welfare checks for homeschooled children. Anonymous tip line with 24-hour response. Red flag system where multiple reports triggered automatic investigation. Willa was invited to testify. She was 9 years old by then. Still small, still quiet, but her voice carried weight. She stood at the podium in the state capitol, looked at the lawmakers. My name is Willa June Ashford. I'm 9. When I was 8, I was invisible. She told them about the 4 people who didn't help, about Tyler, about the system that failed. How many girls are invisible right now while you debate? How many are freezing, starving, recording their abusers because no one believes them? She looked at each legislator. Don't make laws for someday. Make laws for tonight. For the girl who's behind a dumpster right now, please, see her. The room was silent when she finished. Then they voted, unanimous. Willa's law passed. The governor signed it 2 weeks later. Willa and Sarah were there. Tyler's tree was planted outside the Capitol building. It was real. It mattered. Tyler's death had changed something. 1 year later. Willa turned 10 in December. Corinne threw a party, small, just friends and family and a few bikers. The cake was chocolate, her favorite, a plastic compass and on top pointing north. Atlas gave her a leather jacket, kid-sized, with a patch that said Honorary Road Captain. Chalk gave her a journal. For your stories, the real ones and the made-up ones. Deacon gave her a check made out to the North Star Fund. From Willa, your birthday wish for other kids. Willa looked at the number, $500, money she'd saved from small donations people sent her. She smiled. This is perfect. Sarah came, brought photos of Tyler, told stories about her, made sure Tyler was at the party in spirit. When it was time to blow out the candles, everyone sang. Willa closed her eyes, made a wish. What did you wish for? Sophia asked. Willa opened her eyes, that every invisible girl finds her North Star. The Compass Club. Willa started the Compass Club at school in January, a safe space for kids to talk, to be seen. Ms. Feldman supervised, but Willa led. 30 kids joined the first month, 60 by March. They met every Thursday, talked about things that scared them, things that hurt. things they couldn't say anywhere else. Willa didn't fix their problems. She just listened. And when kids told her scary things, she helped them get help. Proper help. The kind that actually worked. The club caught 2 abuse cases that year. One neglect case, one bullying situation that had turned dangerous. Teachers across the district started asking how to start compass clubs in their schools. By the end of the year, there were 12 clubs, 400 kids who were learning they didn't have to be invisible. Return to Prairie Star. On the anniversary of the night Atlas founder Willa asked to go back to the Prairie Star Travel Mart. Corinne drove. Atlas followed on his bike. Chalk came too. It was December. Cold. Not as cold as that night, but close. They pulled into the parking lot. The building looked the same. Bright lights, promise of warmth. But there were changes. A heated alcove by the entrance. A sign that said, "Safe Haven. If you need help, ask. No questions. No judgment." Evan was working. He'd been promoted to manager. Part of his job was training staff on child safety. He saw Willa and came outside. "Hey, Willa, hi." They stood there awkwardly. Then Evan said, "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For making me better. I've trained 43 people now. We've helped 6 kids. One was hiding in the bathroom. Bruises on her arms. I called immediately." Willa nodded. "That's good. It doesn't make up for not helping you." "No, but it helps the next kid." Evan's eyes were wet. "That's all I can do." Willa looked at the spot where she'd been found, where Atlas had heard her tapping. "It doesn't hurt to look at it anymore. It just is." She turned to Evan. "Keep training people. Keep calling. That's how you make it right." "I will, I promise." Willa walked to the back of the building, to the dumpster. Atlas stayed close. "You okay?" Willa touched the metal. Cold, solid, real. "I was invisible here. And now I'm not." She pulled out her compass. The needle swung. Found north. Mom said go toward the lights. I did. I found Atlas. I found Corinne. I found people who saw me. She looked up at the stars. "Now I help other people find their lights." Atlas smiled. "Your mom would be proud." Willa believed him. Epilogue. 2 years later. Willa was 11 when she spoke at the National Child Welfare Conference, the youngest speaker they'd ever had. She stood on a stage in front of 800 social workers, teachers, and advocates. She told them Tyler's story, her story, the stories of the 63 kids the North Star Fund had helped. She told them about the Compass Club, about Willa's law, about the changes happening. But she also told them it wasn't enough. There are still invisible kids, still girls freezing, still boys starving, still children recording their abusers because adults won't listen. She looked at the audience. You have the power to see them, to believe them, to act. Don't wait for proof. Don't wait for perfect victims. Don't wait for convenient timing. See them. Now, today. The kid who's too quiet, the kid who flinches, the kid who hoards food. See them and don't look away. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. But Willa didn't do it for applause. She did it because somewhere a kid was invisible, and she refused to let them stay that way. That night, Willa sat with Corinne on the porch of their house. The compass rested in her palm. Needle pointing north. Steady. True. Aunt Corinne. Yeah, do you think Mom knows about everything? Corinne was quiet. Then I think she knows you took her compass and her advice and you built a whole movement around it. I think she knows you're the bravest person I've ever met. Willa leaned against her. I'm not brave. I'm just trying to help. That's what brave is. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars. Willa touched the compass. The initials. J plus R. Jenna plus Reese. Her parents had loved her before she could remember. That love still counted. It counted enough to give her a compass, enough to teach her to find north, enough to make her believe she mattered. And now she was teaching other kids the same thing. You matter. You're not invisible. Keep going toward the lights. The compass needle trembled, then settled. North. Always north. On Willa's 12th birthday, she did something she'd been planning for months. She went to the prison where Victor Kane was serving his sentence. Not to see him. She had no interest in that, but she wanted him to know something. She wrote a letter. Short, direct. Victor, you tried to make me invisible. You failed. Tyler's tree is growing. Willa's law is saving kids. The North Star Fund has helped 91 children. Your legacy is 22 years in prison. Mine is making sure no other girl freezes. I won. You lost. You will never hurt another child. Willa June Ashford. She mailed it, never expected a response. Didn't want one. That night, she stood in her room, held the compass. The needle pointed north, toward the future, toward the lights. Willa smiled. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was a North Star, guiding others home. And that was enough. 5 years later, Willa stood at college graduation, 17 years old, early admission to social work program. Her thesis, From Invisible to Invincible, Child Advocacy Through Survivor Leadership. Corinne sat in the front row, Atlas beside her. Chalk, Deacon, Sarah, even Evan and Ms. Feldman, the crowd that had seen her when no one else would. Willa walked across the stage, accepted her diploma. In her pocket, her mother's compass. Still pointing north, still guiding her home. She looked at the audience, found her people, smiled. This was just the beginning.